Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is Monday, the 6th of November 2023, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin with the latest as far as the situation in Gaza is concerned, and of course the atrocities that Israel continues to perpetrate on the Palestinian people. The casualties number, the figure has surpassed 10,000 of the Palestinians who've been killed, brutally killed, in this massacre by the Israelis since the 7th of October. The number of injured also tops in the thousands. The fact remains that a lot of the countries across the world are now waking up to what Israel is doing. 8 countries, including Chad, have cut diplomatic ties with Israel in support of Palestine. 18 organizations, including the United Nations agencies chiefs, have joined in to urge a ceasefire in Gaza. Anthony Blinken is in the Middle East, and he also met with the Turkish counterparts and the Turkish leaders as far as looking for a solution. But of course, on all of these, there was not much talk about a definitive ceasefire. Also, when we look at the different countries that are reacting, Jordan's King Abdullah has said his country's Air Force has airdropped medical aid to a field hospital run by Jordan in Gaza. In the United States, in Washington, thousands gathered as well to register their support with the Palestinians against the US and against all those who are part and parcel of these atrocities. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Paygam-e-Pakistan. Now, we have been seeing what has been happening in Pakistan as far as the terrorist attacks, as far as this hate between different sects of Islam is concerned. Now, in a significant declaration, the Pakistan Ulama Council has gathered over 200 members of its executive and consultative body to express solidarity with the Pakistani forces in their fight against terrorism. The declaration has been led by central chairman of the Pakistan Ulama Council, Hafiz Muhammad Tahir Muhammad Ashrafi, who has highlighted the involvement of hostile powers, including India and its allies, in terrorist incidents within Pakistan. Also, if we go back to Paygam-e-Pakistan, this joint statement, which of course is in the form of a book, was first taken out, published in 2018, when around 1,800 clerics had signed this joint declaration, highlighting what was important for Pakistan, what was important for Islam, and what were the main headlines or highlights of what Islam taught us as being Muslims. This is something that has now been reiterated in this renewed declaration. And of course, the message of Pakistan, or the Paygam-e-Pakistan, is a very important document in this day and age when we see a lot of hatred amongst the different sects, hatred that is deliberately being perpetrated by different elements within and from outside of Pakistan. This is going to be our second story. Our third story concerns the Yom-e-Shuhada Jammu. Kashmiris across Pakistan and in the Indian-held valley have celebrated Martyrs' Day in Jammu on both sides of the line of control. On the 6th of November, that is on this very day in 1947, the Dogra army systematically massacred Kashmiri Muslims in Jammu, Kathua, Udhampur and Riyasi districts, and this is why we highlight this very important day. And if you look at today, even now in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the barbarities continue. And finally, we'll be talking about 4% of top companies that have met with the UN climate target guidelines. Half of the world, 2,000 biggest listed companies, have yet to set a target to come to net zero emissions by mid-century. Only a fraction of these have now come to the standards, that is 4%. This is also what we are going to highlight, because COP28 is on the horizon in the UAE, and the fact remains that much needs to be done as far as climate change and the action against it is concerned. Let's come with and begin with our first story, and that concerns the war in Palestine, the conflict between Israel and Gaza, the number of casualties that has now surpassed 10,000. We've been joined by 2 guests. Both are online. My first guest is Mr. Nader Al-Turk. He's the Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Palestine in Pakistan. Thank you very much, Nader Al-Turk, my brother, to have joined us. And my second guest is Syed Muhammad Ali. He's a foreign affairs expert, and he also joins us online. Thank you to both of my guests to have joined us. I'll begin with my brother Nader Al-Turk. Nader, when you look at the latest headlines, let's begin with the casualties. 10,000 plus casualties in Palestine. Tens of thousands injured, whether it be Gaza that has now been divided into 2 as per the reports, whether it be the West Bank. There are reports of more and more barbarities by Israel. What is the Israeli endgame as far as Gaza is concerned?
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Khalid. Thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to speak to my brother and sister Pakistani people, the 30 about the channel. Israelis actually, since the 7th of the month, are in a revenge war targeting women, children, and the defenseless civilian Palestinians living in Gaza, because their image as a superpower country was damaged and destroyed in the 7th of the month, and they tried to as a superpower country in our region. According to that, they are in revenge to rebuild their image as a superpower country again by the flesh and blood of our Palestinian children and women. They are in war to rebuild their image again. Right now, as you mentioned, more than 10,000 Shahid, more than 25 civilians injured. They keep attack schools, hospitals, and they are making collective punishment against the Palestinians, that the Palestinians since more than 1 month right now, without food supply, without electricity supply, without gas supply, without any medical supply. About 50% of the Palestinian hospital in Gaza are out of service because they are out of equipment to help the huge number of injured people, which make more than 2.2 million Palestinians living in Gaza, their lives under danger. There is no space in Gaza safe for any human being, for any animal, for any tree, for any building. Israelis attack only and targeting only civilians. This is what happened since the 7th of the month until now.
All right. Ali, you've heard what Nader Turk had to say. In your point of view, because I'd like to understand that from your perspective as well, what is the Israeli end game? A, in your point of view, is it to completely remove all Palestinians from Gaza so that the Israeli settlers can come and take their place? B, is it to completely exterminate the Palestinians from Gaza as much as possible? C, is there another game plan that is ongoing, or that will be taken up by Israel, or has already been taken up by Israel as we speak?
Thank you, Omar, for having me on the show. I think it's a bit of all three, and let me briefly explain. In my assessment, I think Israel has always used all conflicts to promote its expansionist policy, which we have witnessed starting from 1948, but particularly after the 1967 war, that all conflicts have been used by Israel for three things. Number one, to kill and murder the Palestinians. Number two, to remove them from Palestine. Number three, to occupy more land and territory. And number four, to build illegal settlements in violation of the UN Security Council resolutions. So this is the long-term Israeli policy, which becomes more nuanced and more conspicuous during the conflict era. But this is a long-term policy which, unfortunately, international law, international institutions, international forums, despite their condemnation and concern, have unfortunately not delivered or prevented Israel from giving up this expansionist policy. That's the first agenda. The second agenda, as you must have noticed yesterday, one of the cabinet members of Israel mentioned the possibility of using even nuclear weapon against civilian peaceful Palestinians. So that indicates sort of a strategic signal to other organizations and countries in order to deter them from helping Hamas militarily and preventing this conflict from expanding beyond the current theater of conflict. That's the second objective. The third objective is the level of pain and killing that has been inflicted daily on the Palestinian civilians is aimed as a message to all the other organizations which Israel has been in conflict with, to give them a signal that this is what will happen to you if you dare join Hamas in this conflict, or dare to expand it, or open another front against Israel. These are the three objectives.
All right. Nader al-Turk, brother, I'd like to understand, do you feel that the world is doing enough as far as cutting diplomatic ties or recalling the ambassadors are concerned? 8 countries, this is what I have as a list: Chad, Turkey, Chile, Jordan, Bahrain, Colombia, Bolivia, Honduras have recalled their ambassadors over the atrocities in Gaza. South Africa has also become the latest country to recall all of its diplomats in Tel Aviv. Is this enough? We have seen the condemnation, also the widespread condemnation that has come as a result of the statement by the Israeli minister, who is now no longer allowed to attend the meetings of the Israeli cabinet on usage of the nuclear bomb on Palestine or on Gaza. What political developments, what diplomatic developments is Palestine looking forward to?
I will be briefing that, brother, but to take this answer, I need to come back a little back to the history. Israel was establishing in one lie that Palestinian land, the land of the state of Palestine, it is empty land for a people without land, or land without people for people without land. This is a fake and lie, which is helping Israelis in establishing their own state on our Palestinian homeland. So what they are doing right now, as my brother mentioned, but I will change the step to other 3 steps actually. Israelis are, from the first day of the attack Gaza, they ask Palestinian people in north of Gaza to shift themselves, to be transferred by force to the south of Gaza. On the other hand, still from that day until now attack south of Gaza. Second step, it is transfer people of Gaza to Egypt, which means transfer 2.2 million Palestinians living in Gaza to Egypt to become refugees for the second time in their lives since 1948 until now. Third step, it was since early time, since maybe first week of the attack of Israelis on Gaza, they mentioned they're going to attack Gaza after they transfer the people to Egypt by non-clear bombing and technical one, which means the Palestinian refugees will become refugees forever, because there is no Gaza Strip, going to be no Gaza Strip anymore to come back to it, which means there is no right of return for the Palestinian refugees to their own homes for the second time in life. This is the try to do. When you mention that the minister right now is not allowed to attend the meeting of Israel's government, actually Israeli government, since this war launching by them against Palestinians, there is no meeting in physical. They are meeting through the phones from social media. So that minister who mentioned that they're going to attack Gaza by non-clear weapons, actually is not attending the meetings. He already have the right to vote, like other ministers, about their decisions which they take against our people daily. So what we are waiting from international community, according to that, what reaction until now, what is happening on the ground, the crimes against the humanity in Gaza Strip, the daily killing of civilian people, children and women. More than 70% of the Palestinian victims are women and children. The war crimes created by Israelis daily in Gaza, we will see the reaction of the international community. It is not equal with the criminal action of Israel against the people in Gaza. So what we are waiting from international community, for Muslim Ummah, from all the humans who are love peace and stability, to insist Western countries who are blind support Israelis in their crimes against the humanity, to end their crimes first. Second, we ask them to end the occupation. Third, facilitate the establishing of a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. Fourth, facilitate the right of return for Palestinian refugees which was lost their opportunity to live in their own homelands since 1948, after transferring them by force, by Israeli force, by Zionist force, to come back to their own home and to return according to international resolution created by United Nations, resolution number 194. This is what we are waiting from international community. Until now, we see Americans send their airplane carriers to Mediterranean Sea, 2 of it, and the British send their warships to Mediterranean Sea to support the Israelis. Until now, they still supply a lot of weapons to Israelis to kill more and more Palestinians. So what we are waiting from international community too is not only insist Israel, we ask them to end the supply of military supply for the Israelis, because in all the world, when any country getting supply, getting weapons or getting any use for the army, weapons for the army, there is a special agreement that this weapons can't be used against civilians. What we see right now, Israel use Americans and British and other Western countries' weapons against only Palestinian civilians, not against any armed people or any army. We don't have army in Palestine. So this military supply need to be ended by the Western countries, because it is used against any international rules or any army cooperation in the world. So this military supply need to be ended. And to end this, we need Muslim Ummah, we need the people of the world who are loving peace and stability, supporting the cause of Palestine, to make their governments under pressure to end these crimes, end the blind support of their governments to Israelis in their crimes against humanity. This is what we are waiting right now, immediately, to have action on the ground, to do all of that, to be aware on the ground today, not before tomorrow, because every day, every moment, the number of Palestinian civilians killed people and wounded is increased every moment. And more than, as I mentioned, more than 70% of them are Palestinians, children and women. So this needs to end right now before they are getting their plans to be aware on the ground and getting their dream to have Palestine without people for the Jew or the Zionists to live on it and replace us with their own settlers.
All right. Ali, let's come to the role of the Islamic Ummah, as Nader Turk has pointed out, and the role of diplomacy as well. We are seeing Anthony Blinken, also the US Secretary of State, going in different countries. He went to Iraq, he went to Palestine, where he met with Mahmoud Abbas. He also went to Turkey, where apparently the response was quite cold, and at the same time there were also protests that happened around the US base in Turkey. How do you see these visits by Anthony Blinken? Do you feel there is some kind of an attempt to neuter what has happened in Israel by US and other countries, or do you feel this is just more of a superficial diplomatic push by the US? What needs to be done when it is highlighted that the Islamic Ummah or the OIC or the Islamic countries need to make more efforts in that regard? What are the efforts that you have in mind?
Thank you, Omar. I think this war is afoot on 4 fronts. Let me expand on what His Excellency has just very comprehensively encompassed. The war is afoot on 4 fronts. The first front and the most important front is the moral and humanitarian front. On one side is the ultimate level of tyranny and brutalities, and on the other side is the ultimate level of bravery, courage, and patience. That is the humanitarian front. And thankfully, with the help of media, this realization is spreading around the world, which is affecting the second front, which is the political front. That although US is the main sponsor or providing economic support for this war effort of Israel, but also, they just passed in the US Congress a bill of about $14 billion worth of more military assistance to Israel. and they are also vetoing the UN Security Council resolutions calling for ceasefire and ending non-discriminatory use of force against civilians. The third level is you see Mr. Blinken going around different countries, but it seems, unfortunately, that he's more concerned with trying to dissuade other countries from helping the Palestinian and Hamas rather than using their pressure to convince Israel to stop the war. That is the second front, which is the diplomatic front. The third front is the economic front. And let me highlight, which is because very little is talked about this, is very important. This war may end in a few weeks or months, but the economic damage done to the Palestinian people is long term. They have, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians used to go to Israel for their livelihood. They have been sent back. Their offices, their buildings, their factories, their farms, their olive gardens, everything is gone. So even if they return, even if war ends, even if violence ends, their livelihood, their ecosystem to live, to survive, to work, to study is practically gone. So that is a huge long-term damage and pain that Israel is constantly, carrying out on a daily basis, inflicting on the peaceful civilian Palestinians. That is the third aspect. The fourth aspect is the military aspect. And I want to briefly touch upon it because the escalation, both vertically and horizontally, is very fast and very dangerous, not just for Gaza Strip, but for the whole region and international peace and security. And that is the place, that is the gravity which the US and the Western powers and the international community must immediately realize in order not just to help the Palestinian people, but to prevent this whole Middle East from becoming engulfed in a huge war, which nobody will then be able to control. And it will affect the whole world's energy crisis and so many other aspects as well. So you see,
I just hope, Ali, to be very frank, I just hope that the world realizes what it is getting itself into. The world realizes what it has put Palestinians through since the last decades, and the two-state solution that has been talked about since decades has never been implemented in letter and principle. Also, it needs to pressurize Israel to stop what it's doing. There needs to be a ceasefire and a long-term ceasefire this time until a two-state solution is adhered to in letter and principle. I'd like to thank both my guests, my brother Nader al-Turk, Deputy Head of Mission, Palestinian Embassy, and of course Syed Muhammad Ali to have joined us. Ali, kindly stay online with us for the second part of the show. Thank you very much, Excellency, to have joined us. Let's come to our second segment, ladies and gentlemen. If you can see this book that I have in my hand. This is called Paigam-e-Pakistan, or the Message of Pakistan. In 2018, this book was published with around 1800 clerics, who signed this. And these 1800 clerics belong to all different sects of society, different sects, and of course under one banner, and that was that of Islam, that was of Pakistan, that was of Muslims of Pakistan. They took out a decree that denounced terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, that also had different aspects as far as what needs to be followed if you are a true Muslim, and of course how to follow Islam in its true letter and principle and not be swayed by all the negativity and all the different impressions of our religion that have been put forward to highlight terrorism and to promote terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. We've been joined by two guests for this very segment. Let me introduce them to you one by one. Syed Muhammad Ali, foreign affairs expert, continues with us. And of course, our second guest is Dr. Qibla Ayaz. He's the chairman of the Council of Islamic Ideology. Dr. Saab, I'll begin with you. Thank you very much to have joined us, Dr. Saab. Dr. Saab, in 2018 came Paigam-e-Pakistan, the Message of Pakistan. Now again, there's another declaration by the Pakistan Ulama Council that gathered around 200 members of its executive and consultative body. How important is the role of the ulama, of the clerics, in order to denounce all the different methodologies, whether they be in form of terrorism, whether they be in form of dividing the different sects of Islam?
Yeah, very pertinent question. Very important is the role of ulama, because ulama have great influence on the minds of the people. And this message of Pakistan has played a pivotal role in reducing extremism in Pakistan, because this has been signed by all the leading ulama and the representative religious boards of the religious schools. So it clearly denounces suicide attacks as counter to and declares them contrary to Islamic principles. Also, it says that armed action is prerogative of the state alone, and no group or individual can give fatwa, legal verdict, to kill anybody in the name of religion.
All right, Dr. Saab, you're also the chairman of the Council of Islamic Ideology. How important is the role of your council in order to fight against terrorism and promote Islamic values as they need to be promoted? Under the whole guise of Islam, a lot of people are misusing our religion and our teachings.
Council of Islamic Ideology is a constitutional body which represents all the schools of thought prevailing in Pakistan. So the legal opinion and the Sharia opinion which comes out of the discussion of the apex body of the Council of Islamic Ideology has a constitutional manifestation, and that is why it is very important. And since 1973, Constitution of Pakistan provides for the Council of Islamic Ideology. The Council of Islamic Ideology is the religious face of the state. That's why its opinions are very important.
Dr. Saab, how does this message of Pakistan, Paigam-e-Pakistan, that has been reiterated now again by these 200 plus scholars, aim to ensure unity, tolerance and harmony in the country when we need it the most?
This is exactly the same Paigam-e-Pakistan, message of Pakistan, which was approved by the leading ulama during 2017. And because of some events that have taken place in the Balochistan and some other areas, there was a need to reiterate and make this Paigam-e-Pakistan once again publicized in order to have a trickle-down effect of the fatwa which was given by the ulama on the public minds and to the entire Pakistani society.
All right. Kindly stay on line with us, Dr. Saab. Syed Muhammad Ali, coming to you, what are the foundations and principles that this message of Pakistan is based on, this message of Pakistan that came out in 2018 and how now has been reiterated under the current circumstances that Pakistan is embroiled in?
Omar, as you yourself pointed out, that the core message, the central message is tolerance. And in order to promote peaceful coexistence and harmony within Pakistan, and as Dr. Qibla Ayaz rightly pointed out, since the Council of Islamic Ideology is a constitutional body which is egalitarian and comprehensive, because it is inclusive and it involves and invites input on this very critical, not just ideological identity, but national security issue of promoting harmony and tolerance between all schools of thought of Islam. So I think it has a very critical national security function that ensures that the intellectual, academic, and religious activities related to religion of Islam belonging to all schools of thought are harmonized and promoted in a manner that the individual peculiarities are understood and tolerated, in a manner that mutual peaceful coexistence is also promoted, harmony is advocated, and an environment of stable and secure internal security evolves within Pakistan. And Pakistan, beyond all ethnicities and schools of thoughts, becomes a peaceful, prosperous, and progressive society which allows intellectual quest in an environment marked by tolerance, peace, and mutual respect, so that everybody gets the respect and tolerance and opportunities that the Islamic philosophy not only ensures, but our great founders like Qaid-e-Azam and Allama Iqbal actually desired by creating Pakistan.
Ali, also I'd like to understand, one of the things that was also highlighted way back in 2018 and also now is the branding of our defense forces, of our armies, for example, those who defend our motherland as non-Muslim. This is not the first time it has happened, will not be the last time, but how important is this joint statement by the clerics that calls this against the basic institutions of Islam, against the basic principles of Islam? The second point that I'd like to add is the whole concept of suicide bombing that had also been adhered to as against the injunctions of Islam. How important are these 2 points?
I think these are very critical for national security, Omar, for 3 reasons. Number one, you see this Pakistan intellectually and ideologically, not just bringing all schools of thoughts and all peace-loving religious ulama committed to Pakistan's ideology as well as state sovereignty's principle together on one forum. So that its inclusiveness and its comprehensiveness in itself is critical to ensure that all peaceful, recognized schools of thoughts of Islam are brought on one page and they agree on a consensus document that it reflects their sentiments, ideologies, as well as recognizes the national security interests of Pakistan, that all citizens of Pakistan belonging to all schools of thought must recognize and respect that the monopoly over violence, the monopoly over use of force is solely and exclusively enjoyed by the state institutions only. And no individual belonging to any school of thought has the right to use force or violence against any fellow Muslim or against state institutions. So once all schools of thoughts and all Muslim scholars respect, recognize, and promote this perspective that the use of force is the sole prerogative of the state institution, implies that no individual can use force, weapons, arms, violence against not only state, but against fellow citizens belonging to any school of thought. And when that philosophically and religiously and ideologically is enacted in this pagham, I hope this pagham receives the attention and interest that it actually deserves as a national security imperative of Pakistan, and is shared and promoted not just on media, but also in schools, colleges, and universities, in madaris of all schools of thought, so that not only it is promoted, but it is understood, accepted, and actually adhered and practiced around the country.
Now, Ali, there were 2 things. One thing that is common between 2018 and now, that the points that have been reiterated by the ulama and the clerics, and that concerns our minorities and how they have the freedom to profess their religion in any way whatsoever in our country. When you look at the past, at incidents that have targeted our minorities, how important are statements such as these way back in 2018 and now in 2023?
I think, again, this is a very important issue which has 3 key aspects. One is the international legal aspect and diplomatic aspect. The second is the ideological aspect. And the third is the security aspect. Internationally, there are covenants and UN Charter which Pakistan respects, follows, and adheres to. So it is an international obligation for Pakistan to ensure that all minority rights are respected, protected, and ensured. Number one. Number two is the ideological dimension, that Islam itself, in its true philosophy and its correct philosophy, beyond all schools of thoughts, advocates and advises and promotes respect, not just respect and tolerance, but also a state obligation to ensure the security of all the minorities. And there's umpteenth examples, which obviously we don't have time to go into, but for the international audience, they must be emphasized and stressed that the last Holy Prophet ﷺ strongly promoted and adhered to ensuring not just respect and tolerance, but also security of the minorities. So that is the second aspect as part of the Islamic philosophy and ideology. The third is the security aspect, that it is a Pakistan's national security interest that all citizens of Pakistan who are peaceful, law-abiding, must be able to enjoy freedom of religion, to practice their religion, and not face any threat or harm to them by virtue of their identity. And that is a state obligation with Pakistan's state institution are taught, they understand, and they promote, and it is their state obligation, their legal and professional obligation to protect the rights of the minorities. And
thank you, Ali. Ali, we are a bit short of time. We would have continued, but thank you so much, Syed Muhammad Ali, to have joined us all the way during the show. Let's come to you, Dr. Qibla Ayaz. Dr. Qibla Ayaz, I'd like to understand two things. The no scholar, one of the points that was highlighted way back in 2018 and now in 2023 as well, no scholar shall declare a person a non-believer as it falls under the jurisdiction of the court. B, Pakistan and of course the establishment of Islamic institutions based on human values in Islamic brotherhood is the need of the hour. These 2 points were also highlighted in 2018 and these are also now highlighted again in 2023. What needs to be done in your point of view now?
Yeah, I think as far as the responsibility of the ulama, the religious scholars is concerned, they have done their job. Now it is for the state to take stern action against those who are violating this collective Sharia verdict, the fatwa. And I think if the state sends a message and a very clear message, things will become better.
All right, Dr. Saab, one very last question. How important is the role of educational institutions and the dissemination of the proper information as far as our curriculum is concerned in all sects, whether it be in the madrasas, whether it be in the normal educational institutions?
Very important because, it's the curriculum which makes the mind. So from the very beginning, the curriculum should be based on working together, on coexistence, on supporting each other. So if the curriculum is based on these principles, only then a society which is an inclusive society will be developed.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Qibla Ayaz, Chairman of the Council of Islamic Ideology, to have joined us, to have highlighted many of the important aspects that form part of the message of Pakistan, or the Paigam-e-Pakistan as we call it. It was, of course, published in 2018, but it has been reiterated with a new resolve now in 2023 when we needed also the most. Let's come to our next story, and that is the Martyrs Day in Jammu. Kashmiris across the line of control, both here in Pakistan and in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, have celebrated Martyrs Day in Jammu on both sides. On the 6th of November 1947, the Dogra army systematically massacred Kashmiri Muslims in Jammu, Kathua, Udhampur and Riyasi districts. Dr. Asma Shakir Khaja Sahiba, Executive Director of the CISS in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, joins us online. Dr. Asma Shakir Khaja, thank you very much to have joined us. We are 2023, Dr. Sahiba. This happened way back in 1947. But the same brutalities continue if we look at what is happening now in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Has humanity not understood the message that was that they saw in 1947 and which continues today in 2023?
Definitely, because we see, and one thing that it started on 6th November 1947, but it lasted for few months because this religious cleansing of Kashmiri Muslim was a process. So this process took some time till the Hindu radicals and the fascists Martyrs, they changed the demographic realities of Jammu through this religious cleansing. And as I use the term religious cleansing and changing demography, so it was, unfortunately for the Hindu radicals, it was a successful operation which helped them to convert Jammu region into a Hindu majority region. It was never been earlier. So that is why this act of brutality, this act of forceful demographic, this idea of forceful demographic changes, whether through religious cleansing or through illegal or through bringing illegal occupying people from across India to live in Kashmir, that's never been discarded by Indian policymakers, because it dividends, the policy dividends and the political dividends to Indian government at that time. And that is why this act of brutality is still going on. And we have seen that with the modern technology and the modern ideas, they have not only improved that strategy, but they have included several other aspects in it. For example, actually at that time even the Jammu genocide was a state-sponsored terrorism. We have, if you see contemporary history, we have never seen that the way 3.5 lakh Muslims were brutally killed. And if we talk to the survivors of Jammu genocide, they share horrible stories, horrible incidents, the way the Jammu region became a slaughterhouse by Indians, by Hindu majoritarian, Hindu supremacist, Hindu fascists. So, and even today, this state-sponsored terrorism in occupied Jammu and Kashmir is one of the most important tools in the hands of Indian occupied forces. And that is why not even a single occupied member of occupied forces, soldier, whether he is officer, was ever tried for the crimes against humanity or the war crimes committed by Indian army in occupied Jammu and Kashmir during last 76 years. So unfortunately, what we are witnessing, it is a never-ending pain, trauma of violence, and subject to state-sponsored terrorism of innocent Kashmiris in Jammu and Kashmir today, in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And unfortunately, that test has never been, it still continues. And but I would like to say that if 76 years back that one of the greatest massive religious cleansing of Kashmiri Muslims by Hindu fascists was unable to break the resilience or to terrify.
Of course, the resilience of the Kashmiri leaders, the resilience of the Kashmiri men, women, children can never be broken. Whether it be what happened on this very day in 1947 in Jammu, where the massacre took place, that is now referred to as Martyrs' Day, or even what is now happening in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, when you see a daily continuation of the same massacre that happened in 1947, now in this day in different forms and manifestations on the women, children and the elderly. The fact remains that the resolve, the idea that was perpetrated way back then in 1947 continues in the hearts and minds of the Kashmiris in the Indian held valley, and they will do their utmost to achieve their goal of self-determination, till their last breath. And this is with the resolve, that can never be broken. Let's come to our last story, and that concerns the climate target guidelines. A study says that half of the world's 2,000 biggest listed companies have now set a target. Around 1,003 companies in Forbes 2000 index have now set a target to get to net zero emissions by the mid-century. But the fact remains that there's only 4% of the top companies that have actually met these climate target guidelines. The fact also remains that a lot of important companies do not want to, because of whatever reasons they have, to follow these guidelines. But the important, again, fact of the matter is that climate change is a reality, and it is slowly and steadily changing the world as it is for the worst. We need to act collectively. We need to act now before it is too late. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.